Today, we're actually filming from the offices of the Valley Independent Sentinel at 158 Main Street in Ansonia. And we're joined with the editor, Eugene Driscoll. Thank you for coming, Eugene.
Thank you.
And Ethan Fry, one of the staff writers and reporters for the Sentinel. And thank you very much for having us bring our cameras in. We appreciate it. And as far as I understand, this is the only online nonprofit news site in the Valley. Is that correct?
At least on this road, as far as we know. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. So I guess before we get into the Sentinel a little bit, I think our viewers would appreciate finding out a little bit more about you guys. Maybe we'll start with you, Eugene, where you're from, kind of what brought you to Connecticut, if you're not from Connecticut, and then how you get started, the idea of starting the Sentinel.
Sure. Well, first, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
For being here, because we're fans of this show.
Oh, I appreciate it.
And it's just exciting for us to be on here and to reach your audience.
That's great. And I want to say, you mentioned that you guys have been nice and embedded several episodes of our show right onto your site. And I know, considering you get like 15,000 hits or something like that, was it a day or?
150 million. We're about 5,000 to 8,000 people check out the site every day.
Wow, that's good.
Monday to Friday. That's
right.
We don't publish on Saturday
right.
or Sunday.
That's right. And I've noticed an increase in viewership of this show when you guys have embedded, so I appreciate that. But anyway, like we're saying,
I'm from.
Yeah, where you're from, exactly.
Sure. I'm from Somers, New York. That's where I was born and raised. I've been in newspapers for 15 years now. Started out at a weekly in Mount Kisco, New York.
Oh, okay. Now,
called Pat Trader.
Somers is where?
It's northern Westchester.
Oh,
it's
okay.
about 30 minutes from Danbury.
Okay.
If you're going on 84
Right,
into New
right.
York, it's the second town in,
Okay.
I suppose.
Oh, okay.
So I live in Derby. I live on Hawthorne Avenue in Derby,
good.
not far
that's
from
good.
Derby Neck Library.
Yeah.
I wound up there because I was a reporter at the News Times of Danbury previous to this. My wife is a photographer at the Connecticut Post.
Oh, really?
Yes, and
Wow.
an apartment on E Street was equidistant from Bridgeport to Danbury. So that's how we wound up
Oh,
here.
that's good. So you guys are both in news media. Kind
Yes,
of.
yeah.
Wow.
One step from the poorhouse for sure.
Did you guys meet that way? Did you?
We met. Yeah, I met my wife in the. I'm laughing to myself. The cafeteria of the News Times of Danbury,
Oh, really?
which is a soda machine and like a coffee dispenser.
Right.
But yeah, we have 2 young children. I have a son named Jack, who is 2.5, and
Wow.
I have a 5-month-old daughter named Emma.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
Nice.
and if this phone goes off during this thing, it's Jack just apparently fell and hit his head. But I think he's okay.
I thought you were going to say it's an Emma emergency.
No, hopefully not Emma. No,
That's right,
she's pretty easy.
Oh, good. That's
So
good.
yeah,
That's excellent.
and then you had asked the way we came about is that I was
Right.
working at the News Times of Danbury at the time, and
Okay.
I used to work at the Hartford Courant briefly. I was a web guy there.
Okay.
I've been in the online side of news since about 2005.
Okay.
And a former supervisor called me from the Hartford Courant and said, "Hey, Paul Bass is starting up a Valley edition of the New Haven Independent."
Oh, okay.
And they wanted somebody who knew online stuff and who lived in the Valley.
Right.
And so I jumped at the
There you go.
opportunity.
Plus journalism background.
Right.
Where now? You went to journal school. You have a degree.
I went to Iona College. Yeah,
Oh,
I have a
okay.
degree in mass communication. Ethan and I kind of went to both. We both went to small Catholic schools for journalism.
Oh, okay. Iona, that's in New Rochelle, isn't it?
New Rochelle, New York. Yeah,
That's right, yeah.
I'm a gal.
That's right. So, okay, so then as far as getting started, you said they wanted you to start some kind of online presence in the Valley. Kind of, if you can get into more detail, how did
Sure.
it kind of evolve from there?
Well, it actually predates me. I was sort of the hired gun. I was the
okay.
last brought in. But what happened was Paul Bass runs the New Haven Independent.
Okay,
Paul Bass of the Online Journalism Project. That's actually our nonprofit.
okay.
The Valley Community Foundation saw what Paul was doing in New Haven and wanted to replicate it here. They wanted an online-only, hyper-local news site just for the towns of the Valley.
That's really interesting because the Valley Community Foundation unto itself is similar. In other words, the Greater New Haven wanted a presence in the Valley, so they created the VCF as an offshoot of them. So in a way, they're just doing this from.
And it's all and the Foundation for Greater New Haven played a key part in Paul Bass's site coming to exist. So they teamed up. You had a established news site in the New Haven Independent team up with VCF. And they applied for a grant from the Knight Foundation.
Okay.
Knight Foundation, there used to be the Knight Ritter news chain,
Okay.
which went away. But they started this foundation to sort of fund projects that are the next generation in news.
Okay.
The idea being your print product is going away. What's the news site of the future? So we received a $500,000 grant
Wow. Oh my
in
God.
2009.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how we launched. And I was hired I was just brought in at the end to run the news.
Now you said, but I thought did you say 2005 was when it sort of...
Paul Bass started the New Haven Independent,
okay.
separate and
Okay,
apart from
okay.
us in 2005. There's a new book that just came out called The Wired City by Dan Kennedy.
Okay.
It's a book, and a huge portion of it focuses on how Paul Bass in New Haven launched his nonprofit site, basically with a cell phone and in a coffee house, and how it's grown.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Wow.
that's a plug for that book.
Sure. Hey.
I think we get mentioned, maybe. Maybe we have one little mention in the Valley, but
Oh, that's good.
yeah, so that's how we came together.
It's interesting because the only way I know kind of it seems like there's a tie-in when you go to the Valley Sentinel and you go to the calendar. Sometimes it'll take you to the New Haven calendar versus the local Valley calendar.
Well, it'll take you to a combination of both.
Oh,
You can see what's going on in New Haven and in the Valley.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, we
Yeah.
put our show on there, and there's a lot of activities in the libraries, schools, and things like that. I think it's a very, I've noticed it's a very user-friendly site, which is good. And like you said, you get so many hits, people reading, and it's like, I just did this past weekend where it was Friday, and I knew it was supposed to be gorgeous all weekend. So it's like, oh, what's going on in Connecticut? And you can just go to those calendars, and of course, other areas of Connecticut have similar calendars. So it's nice. It's a very convenient thing to have like one-stop shopping.
And that's user-generated. The users actually, the
Right,
readers
that's right.
upload the info.
That's right.
Because this is the entire Valley, and we don't have, this is our entire workforce.
Well, I mean, hopefully we get to talk about that some more. I think that's pretty impressive. I mean, you guys are doing, when you look at the scope and the gamut of information that you guys are presenting for just the two of you, and one of you being someone who's not just doing the reporting, you have to kind of manage the business at the same time. Usually, I would think like a post or a register, they have somebody managing the business and then everybody else kind of going out there and getting the stories. But I would imagine you're wearing two hats that way.
Well, I'm the editor in terms of I shape the stories, I assign the stories,
Right.
and I edit the stories when Ethan hands them in or from some freelancers. The business side of it, the raising money, is really Paul Bass outside.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I've written grants. We just got a grant from the Catherine Matthews Foundation
Right.
for $10,000, and
Wow.
I wrote that application.
Okay.
But by and large, we're not involved in day-to-day revenue and things like that.
So the link between you and New Haven is still there, which is
Oh, yeah.
That's really
Sure.
good. That's helpful because they'll have a bigger city and they're going to have access to more grants potentially or just more exposure. So that's good. It's a tag team effort that way. So
Yeah, we're not completely alone.
right,
which is
that's good. It'd be tough. I think it would be really tough. You guys do a great job, and I think you cover a lot of, you do cover a lot of everything, which is nice. I think that's, you see things from, what's going on a day-to-day thing, but then you have long-term, someone gets an award or a grant, even not just your own grant, but other valley-oriented grants or city grants that are given, like what's going on in Sony and things like that. I think that's, that's good. You kind of mix it up, which is nice. Let's talk a little bit about maybe, first of all, maybe from the beginning, how did you start deciding, okay, someone says, okay, you've got this online news site. I mean, what was kind of the first thing you did as far as deciding what kind of stories you want to do? What's the mission? Is there a mission for the Sentinel? And then that was 2009. You said, so where is that then compared to where it is now? And have you accomplished your goals that you wanted to do so?
Sure. I mean, when I was first hired, I guess it was April 2009.
Okay.
I mean, the first thing I did was look for a place to rent in the Valley for an affordable price.
Right.
And then I guess what I did from the very beginning was I went to area fire departments.
Oh, wow.
First. Yeah, I had the sense of because I lived on E Street in Derby for a few years, and I just had the sense that some of the volunteer agencies, like the fire department, were sort of the backbone of the community.
Agreed.
And so I just kind of reached out my hand to them. That was what I did off the bat.
It's interesting you mentioned that too, because one of the goals for the show is to have more sort of out there in the community. We've had a lot of organizations do a lot of work, but someone like the firehouses, I know the Seymour Firehouse has already approached me about being on the show. I've spoken, Derby is smallest city in Connecticut. It's got 4 firehouses, and that cover that area. But there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of evolution. I mean, I've been here now in the Valley about 20 years, and you think about some of the things when they were trying to get new equipment and things like that. Just the way it's evolved, just in the past 2 decades, let alone probably from way back when some of the firemen started.
Right.
So, but you're right. They're out there. They have those pancake breakfasts. They're such a community-oriented thing. They're all volunteer.
Yeah,
right?
it's amazing that.
Exactly. So
it was a way to tap into, get a little. They had their fingers in sort of everything.
Exactly. Right, because
So-
they're going to be meeting people and businesses. I mean, you think about it. It's not like they can control where they're going to go. So they're going to. You're right. They're going to be a good source for those types of things.
And from there, it was myself and Jody Mosier. editor, now Jody Gill, she's been since married.
Okay.
We launched it together.
Okay.
And from there, we talked to various, the police chiefs. We went and met, met all the mayors and first selectmen. And what we had to worry about at the very beginning, there had been actually some anonymous blogs that had been going on in the valley, and there were some libel suits pending where people were suing each other. There had been an Ansonian newspaper at some time, at some point, that was basically anonymous and unattributed information, sort of like a gossip rag.
Sure.
So immediately people thought online news, they tied us to those things.
Right.
And so we had to sort of show our faces and talk about our background and what we wanted to do.
You guys are full-fledged journalists, not somebody in their basement typing on the thing.
And then in terms of a mission, I mean, I had been working in print publications, and print has really had lots and lots of problems in terms of maintaining that business model.
Right.
So I always felt the web is a better way to deliver news. It's faster, it's immediate, and more importantly, the walls between the reporter and the public are gone with the internet. So I was looking. I was the guy who would sit there at the paper at the News Times of Danbury and spout off. I knew everything, and then I got handed this chance. Well, here you go, Mister. Talk is cheap. Go ahead and do it. So, and by that I mean we probably do different than a lot of other organizations is the way we use social media and the way we use Facebook. It's two-way communication. A lot of times the readers decide what we're going to report on, and they're our editors. We don't write editorials. We don't endorse political candidates. The readers do that specifically through our Facebook page, which for whatever reason is very strong in the Valley. We get much more links and page views and interaction on our Facebook page than say Twitter. I don't know why that is. But,
so have you found that to be different in other areas of Connecticut or the U.S.?
Yeah, I think in general the consensus among news organizations in Connecticut is Twitter's the way.
Really? That's interesting, because I would have thought Facebook to me made sense because of that. To me, Twitter is more conducive to immediate facts. It doesn't seem as conversation inducing.
I agree.
So I think and the thing is, but you know what? It's interesting because you said that you like getting the feedback.
We want that feedback.
Right. If you're a newspaper that just here's the article, then Twitter is perfect because people aren't really in that mode of just, well, I think this, and what do you think that? And because I've seen conversations where you'll have with somebody, and it's just, plus you can write more. You're not limited to 140 characters. So if you want to get into sort of a justification, that you can do that. And
you have to use first and last names. Most people who sign up for Facebook will use their real first and last name.
That's a good point. That's right.
And that's something we want.
And whereas Twitter, you have a handle and you can abbreviate and things like that. That's a very good point. I hadn't thought of that. But I know people who use it for sports or stock ticking. If it's just constant information, I think it's great. I think Twitter's can be very, even sometimes more up to the minute than Facebook can. But if you're looking for, here's the story of the day and what do you think, and we'll have a little banter about that. And then
exactly.
It's perfect. I think that's, and you guys, the only thing, and I actually run into this quandary too, because I set up a blog for the show. And I'm wondering, because you guys have the Facebook page, but you also have the article comments. And I've seen, article comments almost pseudo go back and forth, obviously in some cases. So I guess from your standpoint, do you have a preference? In other words, if you were going to get a sort of give and take, would you rather it be on Facebook or on the actual article below? And is there any way that you know of to link the two? Whereas as soon as you post to Facebook, it would automatically go underneath the article.
And it's interesting the way that developed because, to be totally selfish here, I would want everybody to be on our site. The whole conversation on our site.
Exactly.
Increase our page views, and sell a car, or whatever we want to do. But,
that's right.
But the way it evolved, we had comments when we first launched. All you needed to do was sign up with an email address. You could verify it and you could comment. And what ended up happening was, and then we had our Facebook page, which was a separate. What we found was people would comment under false names on valleyindy.org on the site proper. And I was constantly having to deal with people complaining, and it was getting ugly, and we did it for about a year. And then we saw a Facebook page where people would use their first and last names, have a more civilized, people are going to say what they're going to say.
I understand.
But I found that this better conversation was taking place on Facebook, and I thought to myself, well, why am I going through the headache every day of somebody using multiple anonymous names to bash someone when we can just direct the conversation towards Facebook?
Absolutely.
So that's why we require a Facebook account to comment on valleyindy.org. Now, I mean, here's the thing. We're a nonprofit. We're a true nonprofit.
Right.
I mean, you've seen our office.
Like,
We're not exactly...
As in 501c3.
Right. Yeah, you can go on to GuideStar and look up our tax records.
Right.
You know, you can go to About Us and find on our site the online journalism projects, all our tax records. It's all up there.
Right.
We don't have a lot of money. So, yes, you can use a Facebook program where you comment on Facebook and it goes onto the site, but we just haven't done that because and you have to pay somebody to do that.
Good point.
So
yeah, I wasn't sure if there was like an automated way for that to happen.
There is, and I've seen it. Like I read Jim Romanesco as an industry blogger, and I read him religiously, and he has this great thing. And I've actually, I've posed that to our developer, the guy that actually does the hardware and designs the site.
Right.
But his point is, the thing is, you might have to change every year, so it sort of gets. And we'd rather just concentrate on.
Sure.
And we're not really, since we're a nonprofit. Page views don't matter. They matter to us because it can show people, hey, look, people read us.
Right.
But at the same time, I mean, as long as the conversation's happening, it doesn't really matter to us where it happens.
Agreed.
So it's sort of a different. I mean, I come from corporate media where I would get a bonus in my check. I was an online editor of a site. So if my page views reached a certain number, I would get $100 or whatever it was, or like a free can of tomatoes.
You're clicking on the page.
Exactly. My mom, I'd call my mother. Listen, Ma, you got to click. Keep clicking.
It's funny you say that because when I started, originally this show was only on Comcast Channel 10, and then when it became available to be online, I found out, I never knew this, that YouTube will track where people view from, male versus female, age demographics. We had 4 amazing shows about the Seymour Pink Cancer effort, and I figured mostly women would watch. Actually, some of those episodes more men than women. I'm still wondering how YouTube gets that data. I mean, I would want to find that out. I mean, as far as I know, it's good. I'm not going to, but I'd love to find out more. But the funny thing is, when you break it down and you click on U.S. and you get the different states, like there's one. It showed Oregon. Now my brother lives in Oregon, and I'm telling him about the show. One day it's 0, next day it's 1, and I call him and I say, "Oh, you watched the show last night?"
You're the guy in Oregon.
Yeah, exactly. It's so funny if you kind of know that's the
case.
And
Facebook's the same way. You get all this demographic data. That's right. That you're not paying for, which is helpful for us because we're small,
absolutely.
And it helps guide. I mean, the readers on Facebook really. Look at all right. So Route 34 has this issue going on, Pink House Cove, about car crashes there and lives lost.
Correct.
And that's really a reader, citizen-driven story.
Right.
I mean, what happened with that is that our readers on Facebook, every time we would say, "Hey, there's another accident," traffic alert, Route 34 is closed, and we'd get this, 70 comments on our Facebook page about how the road's unsafe, and it triggered us to look into it and to do more reporting on it.
And it triggered some of the local officials.
And now it's at the point, it's been picked up by other media, and now something's going to happen.
Right.
And I think that's it's not a tribute to us; it's a tribute to the readers and the two-way communication.
Well, I think
that's why we do what
But you being open to that, I mean, like you said, a lot of first of all,
I was humble bragging,
But I mean, you could be, first of all, if you're a print newspaper, how can you really, other than letters to the editor, which are weeks after the fact, how do you get into that sort of give and take? So the online part really allows you, whether you're for it or against it, it allows that to happen.
Yes.
But then for you to be actually open and we're looking into it, and here's this, and by the way, do you know this, and does anybody else? It's always like, I see that. Does anybody else know anything? I mean, you guys are not, the ego is definitely down, not like, well, we're the newspaper reporters and we're going to find the information for you. And it's like, well, I was just there and here's what happened. And if you were on the spot, you would be interviewing these people, so why not get the sort of pseudo interview?
It goes back when people say, oh, there's only 2 of you, that you get, there's 2 of us, we're working here, but the public, I mean, it's all equal. If there's something going on, thankfully the Valley lets us know.
That's
so
good.
They're sort of our unpaid staff.
And I think that's, honestly, like you were saying with the firehouses, that's one of the reasons, probably one of the top reasons why I love living here. There is each town is a small town, so you get but you put the region together as one. I mean, people band together here like I've never seen. I mean, it's just like, something goes on, and need help, boom. They just react. And it's really good that way. And I guess the other thing I was thinking of, sort of the counter to that, is now if you do allow input, and it's on the fly, like you said, the speed of the social networking is much different. What do you do from a reporting standpoint about validating your sources, and people, have you run into issues where someone has said something and you kind of went with it and maybe treated it almost as fact when it turned out it wasn't, those kinds of things? How do you balance that?
Do you want to grab that one?
I mean, you see comments on Facebook, and I mean, you can't take them as gospel, but I mean, generally, as Eugene said, when you're putting your own first and last name to something, you're gonna be more careful about what you say as opposed to if it was just anonymous. But
I'm thinking in terms of, let's say when we go to a fire. I mean, we have certain safeguards that we do.
I mean, yeah.
We won't put an address on a fire unless we see the address with our own eyes.
Oh, okay.
Things
Well,
like
that's a
that.
good example.
Like there'll be a fire call or something where there's an address where the address is like the person that called it in. So you don't want to say, this house is on fire when some poor person who just called it in. So we'll go out to the scene, and if we eyeball the house and like, this is the house, that's the house number, okay, yeah, go with it.
Would you, in that case, maybe compromise and only say, okay, it's on Olivia Street?
No, that's
in the area. You'll see all of our.
That's right. I have seen.
Yeah, and it'll come across the scanner as they'll give an exact address.
Right.
But and we do this because I've made this mistake at other places I've worked, where you say 246 Given Road is on fire, and it's not. And so the guy that owns 246 is sitting there in his cubicle at work, and suddenly there's a report that his house is on fire.
Or if his mother panics, I mean, if something happens, then what?
So we try to keep that in mind.
I figured you would, but I just one of those things that
it's definitely a challenge.
Because you've got boom, boom, boom.
And the thing is,
to be like right there.
And I think the media collectively, and I'll include us as we're all learning by mistakes.
Right.
And I think there's a learning curve. That's why you'll see mistakes on social media from media organizations as we're all sort of dealing with this new communication that's been going on.
Our readers, I mean, they'll call us on it if we get something wrong. Like that's another good thing. It's like, no, this was at such and such.
Right.
They'll know.
Yeah, they're good about it.
And that's good. And again, you have to be receptive to that. You guys not having an ego about it is really important, because I'm sure every paper out there would have readers that would do that, but some would be like, oh well, we'll take care of it. Thank you very much.
Right. It's no longer. You're no longer the anonymous reporter keeping the readers.
That's
or you're not the gatekeeper.
That's
the doors have been blown off the hinges.
So that's good. And I was thinking, you were saying about learning from mistakes and things like that. Have you? First of all, do you guys do yourself, both of you? You have degrees, you have this experience, but do you continue to go to like seminars about how to use social network to report news and things like that? I mean, I know those courses exist. Have you done any kind of I guess they call continuing education, those kinds of things?
Our social media policy is use social media like the rest of the planet, and don't be stupid, you moron.
Okay.
That's pretty much our guiding principles with our social media. We try not to get too complicated with it, where, I mean, I've seen sort of corporate mandates and big media mandates where they hand out these guidelines for reporters.
Right.
And we're there's two of us here. I think we're small enough. If I do something wrong, Ethan will check me on it.
Right.
If I make a mistake, we'll have a conversation about it. But we haven't taken any formal classes on like how to use Twitter.
Or what about just on reporting in general? I mean, do you
we haven't been. I mean, we have sort of. No, we don't have formal. We haven't been to formal like SBJ cited professional journalist conferences. We really haven't been to one.
They do occasionally. The Connecticut chapter. Jody Gill is the president of the Connecticut chapter. They do like occasional. There will be like
workshops.
A forum or something, or a workshop about a specific thing. So that could be helpful.
Right. That's all. It doesn't have to be a formal.
She'll report back to us about what she learned, or like she'll live tweet the forum as it's happening.
Oh, okay.
That's
now you mentioned
that's a good question.
Jody started with you.
Yes. Well,
how did you guys hook up? In other words, because they approached you about the paper, right?
Yeah, and Paul Bass also contacted her. She was also at the Hartford Courant, but she wasn't there when I was there. She was a reporter, and solid reputation.
Right.
Wanted to do something different. Wanted to sort of take this leap into this experimental site.
So he had in mind the two of you working together.
Yeah, I guess we had. There were people, I guess, at the Courant and people who had been talking, and that the two of us just got matched up somehow.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually a secret. I don't know. I met her the first day.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
So.
I mean, I remember reading some of those. She was the one. Did she do the thing on the flood?
Yes, that was her graduate
that was
work.
that was part of her. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, we had 3 reporters. I think in 2012 we really hit our stride with 3 reporters. Once we brought Ethan on and we had Jody, because what we could do is Ethan and I could sort of handle the everyday news, whether house fire, government meetings, and we had that third person to do investigative work, and that's sort of what Jody was getting into. Maybe we'll do that again, or the two of us. Now we're 2, so because the economy is what it is, and it's hard to raise money. But we really hit our stride, I thought, in 2012 with a couple of investigative pieces.
That's good. So. And you mentioned the Catherine Matthews was where you got this. You applied for that grant. Did you actually? You got that grant? You said.
We just got the check today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, right before you walked in.
Congratulations! That's awesome.
That's good.
Now, other grants. I mean, you've been mentioning obviously it's a tough economy, and also but like there's I'm thinking from your standpoint, there's a journalism side of things, right? So there's just general news organizations might be entitled to grants. Then the fact that you're online, you've got maybe grants that way, and then you've got Valley grants because of where you're located. So I mean, how much of what you do is subsidized by those grants?
We're 99% grant funded.
Oh, really?
Every year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. VCF gave us a 3-year grant. I want to say it's 3 years. It might be 2.
Okay.
$50,000 a year. And then Catherine Matthews.
Right.
We've gotten grants in the past from the Connecticut Health Foundation.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How did you get that? How did you?
That was a small grant we received, and we did we produced health reporting. It was used to fund Valley Health Stories. It was back 2009, 2010.
Okay.
So we do that way, and then once a year we've done. I don't want to get the name wrong, but it's the Foundation for Greater New Haven does a Great Give.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We did that last year,
Okay.
and that was just we put it on our Facebook page,
Right.
and we raised $4,000
Wow.
from Facebook readers, just people
Oh my
who saw
God.
it. Yeah, it was
That's amazing, yeah.
it was
That's
our that and helping to organize a first selectman debate in Seymour
Right.
are probably the 2 things that I'm most proud of.
I was
since
gonna ask you that,
2009.
actually.
Those are the 2 to see people support us like that.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
It was yeah.
Have any comments on the show? Feel free to provide feedback, questions, or suggestions to lookingupvalley@gmail.com or check out our Facebook page and dedicated website. Thank you very much.